Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Venue Live. My name is Roger Ramirez and this is Houston's first online live venue brought to you from R&R Studios. We are here in the studio with my friend Jypsy Rose. Thank you for joining us today, Jypsy. Did I say that correct?
Yes.
I didn't mess up your name, right?
Nope.
I am infamous for messing up names.
Well, where it really gets complicated is in the spelling, because most people want to spell Gypsy the normal
That
way
is
with
true.
a G.
That is true.
And then, I have a J at the beginning of my name, and that kind of throws some people off. But the Oriental people love it because they seem to already have the J thing going on over there.
So tell us a little. That is true. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in music.
I was a little girl, and my mom married my stepfather, and he had a bar band that would come over and practice at the house every week. And he had this 500-pound black fella that had this soulful voice as his lead singer. And my stepdad would not allow us in the room while they were playing. So me and my little sister would creep up behind the big guy and sit Indian style on the floor and hide from Dad. But we couldn't help but wiggle, and we couldn't help but, sing. And
Of course.
Detar, who was the 500-pound fella, he could hear us even though our stepfather could not. And he would turn around and he'd say, "Oh, you want to sing?" And my stepdad said, "No, get out of here. Get them out of here."
Oh, no.
And he said, no, we gonna do this. So they were singing at the time, My Girl. That's what they were practicing.
Oh, cool.
Because they were a bar band that did a whole bunch of requests, and that was just one of the random variety things that they did.
I was actually practicing that song earlier because I'm going to play that on Friday, the band.
So, he would sing that My Girl. He would go, "My girl." And I thought that we were going to be able to sing My Girl behind him.
Yeah.
And I'm all excited because I know the song, know the words.
Yeah.
But I was 11-year-old girl, and he said, "No, that's not what you're singing." And I said, "What am I singing?" And he goes, I'm going to say, "My girl," and you're going to sing, "Hoo hoo." I looked at him funny, like, that's not in the song. And he's like, "Well, it is now." So what it taught me was in vocal training to hold on to two notes and make them pitch perfect. And he told me if I figured out how to do those two notes, then he would give me something else to do. Well, my stepdad eventually saw the aptitude of me and my sister from singing, and he quit the bar band and he went into backing tracks, and we did anniversaries and weddings and graduations and stuff that little girls that could be involved in, and we had a family vocal band. And so me, my sister, my mom, my other two stepsisters, and my youngest brother didn't sing much, but he would tap around on stuff. And so we would have these, little things that he would give us that just made a lot of noise, and we'd just sit there and, make the noise during the song and keep the rhythm.
Yeah.
So I learned how to keep a rhythm while I was singing, so that it didn't mess me up. And a lot of people in their brain, they can't keep a rhythm while they're singing. A lot of people tell me it's really hard to play a bass guitar and sing at the same time. Yeah, or play drums and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's what we ended up doing as a vocal band, and I never learned a single instrument, honestly, growing up. My stepdad played keyboard, and he played all kinds of different sounds on the keyboard, and then we would have backing tracks, and then he had a drummer that came in, and so we ended up keyboards, drums, and a bunch of singers, and it sounded really great. And we had a lot of gigs when we were growing up just singing.
Well, that's pretty awesome. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
We also grew up in a musical family, and we would watch my dad's band practice. I must have been like 5 or 6 in Mexico City. I don't remember that much, but I do remember kind of sitting in some of the rehearsals. My older brother Robert, who was a drummer, he actually got to play with him as a little kid. So tell us about your name, Jypsy Rose.
Oh,
Tell us a little bit of the story. I know we spoke about it earlier, but
that's a sad story. Okay, My second husband and I, my first husband and I split up over irreconcilable differences. My second husband and I split up because as I started to develop a music career, he did not like me traveling and hanging out with other men that were not when he couldn't be there. And so a lot of things happened that caused our divorce. And during the divorce, he got really mean. And one thing that he used to threaten me was that he was going to trademark my name. So he did. And the judge gave him 50% of all the songs that I had ever written since I was 15 years old.
And this is your original name, which is
Julie, which was Julie Rose.
Julie Rose.
So
beautiful name, by the way.
Yeah, and so the judge told me that if I used the name, then he could sue me in business.
That's crazy.
But as long as I could use it as my birth name and I could use it in normal personal functions, but that I couldn't use it in business. So I thought that was ludicrous, but my attorney and I came up with a resolution that I would change my name. So I asked my family, and if it was okay, if I, kept the Rose and kept the J and just changed it to Jypsy, since I had already started traveling with me and a guitarist had already started traveling and singing music, and I played at the the Nashville CMA that year is what I played. And so then when we got divorced and everything was finalized, then I was Jypsy Rose.
Wow. That's an interesting story. That's crazy how
people used to ask me if I was a real gypsy. And I used to tell them, no, it was just my name.
Uh-huh.
But I was lying. Yes, because in the past year, I've been in the music now for 4 years. And in the past year, I started doing ancestral history and found out that our German ancestry, all the way back to Germany, at least 2 generations married into a gypsy family, and the females are gypsies.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And so I'm a descendant of
You're a gypsy with the J.
on my dad's side. Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I used to think it was funny because at first they would use it as a slanderous term. It was like, are you a real gypsy? Do we have to worry about you stealing our stuff while you're singing? And I was like, that's not nice, but
people.
Yeah. So when I found out that I was a real gypsy, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
But I actually started hanging out with some real gypsies, and I have some real gypsies in my band now that have grown up. At least one of them grew up gypsy, so he knows the gypsy language. He knows gypsy medicine.
That's very interesting.
Yes, and he's teaching me all of those things that I lost, that I didn't get to grow up with.
Wow.
Out of my gypsy heritage. Of course, honestly, I'm Heinz 57 because I have so many there's too many to mention, but there's Dutch in my family. There is a true Spaniard in my family. And there's even some Cherokee, which everybody says Cherokee, but there's some Mayan too,
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so it was like, pretty crazy.
That's pretty diverse.
Yeah, pretty diverse. And every once in a while, I feel that come out in my stuff. I'm like, oh yes, I like this. This is what and I'm playing it, and I'm writing it, and I'm like, man, that kind of sounds like this Tejano song that I heard the other day.
Yeah.
It's like, where'd I get that from?
Which actually leads me to my next question. Tell us about your style of music.
I try not to. I'm gonna wait until. Well, I'm at a point where management is looking at me, so I'm gonna wait until a point where management picks me up before I start branding myself. But there's diverse style in my music, but I would just, when people ask me, I just call it Southern. I tell them that there's a little country in there and there's a little rock in there, but it's just Southern. You know, it's what do we consider the Eagles nowadays? Would they consider it country, or they consider it pop, or they consider it rock? You know, it's really on a crossover stream.
Yeah, just from listening to you a little while ago during sound check, that's what I was kind of registering, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so it's difficult to box it, but I'm sure that some management will come along and figure out how to box it.
What about your influences?
Let's see. Vocally, my influences have been Celine Dion.
Okay, I know that one.
Beyonce, Mariah
Oh, wow.
Carey. Because I can hold a note for extremely long period of time, and I can get very, very high notes. And
Yes, you can.
I can hit higher notes than some of the current artists in the if you wanted to categorize myself as Southern or country or Southern rock, then in those categories I probably can hit a whole lot more higher notes than they can. A lot of people would tell me that I sound like Janis Joplin. Of course, when they first told me that, I had no idea who they were talking about. They said, "Can you sing us some Janis?" They come up to the stage. "Can you sing us some Janis?" And I'm looking around because actually my mom's name is Janice.
Oh, no way.
And I'm sorry, Janice was before my time, but I did not know who she was. And I'm going, well, she kind of sings Tanya Tucker, and they didn't know what I was talking about. So, I was going, okay, so they're not talking about my mom. And then they just gave up and they said, you need to learn some Joplin. And so I go, So I look up Joplin. And then I found Janis Joplin and started listening to it. And I'm like, man, these are my jams. They're right. This sounds like my stuff. And after that, played like Susan Tedeschi in the reel. And I was like, man, these are really my stuff. So I've learned some Janis songs and I've learned some Susan Tedeschi songs. And, I kind of started emulating them because they could sing high and they could sing low and they could wail.
Yeah.
And the way I got to sing high and sing low was I was the background singer in the family band. My sister was the front singer, and she had her voice and I had harmony.
Well, most people that end up doing backup vocals sometimes end up being better singers, and it's very, very common, and actually come out from doing that to lead in a band.
Well, although she has a definite style, and she has her own band out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she sings locally out there, I did learn some things that she never got to, like how to sing harmony and singing high and singing low.
Yeah.
Behind
listening.
Yeah, and so I did gain a range that she doesn't have. She is a solid soprano, and I love singing with my sister because she's an amazing singer, and she's got a strength of an ox in her voice.
Well, I have to look her up now. we hadn't
her name
talked
is
about this
Christina
before.
Rose.
Christina Rose.
Yes.
Well, Christina Rose, I'm gonna look you up. What do you have prepared for us today? What are you gonna do for us today?
I was going to do some of my original songs and give you a sneak peek on my release that's coming out in November. It is an ongoing project that I've been doing for 2 years out of Nashville. I'm a Nashville recording artist now. Yeah, I could say that. And so I wanted to share with y'all the first song that's going to come out in November now that the music is at its completion. So and some other songs that I play live that probably won't go into any online album, but I carry on my live album. And then I guess if my Jypsy band decides to change them up and remake them, maybe we end up putting them out somehow. But right now they're just songs that I do live that that people kind of get into a little bit, you know, and I play acoustic guitar now. I've been playing acoustic guitar for 2 years, so I'm still kind of a baby at it. But I can get around on it a little, you know, enough to tell a story.
Yeah.
So
That's what it takes.
I'll tell you some stories. I got, you know, a couple of songs that are just stories, you know. One of them specifically is the completion of the very first song that I ever started writing when I was a teenager. Of course, because I had started it and I had not actually put it on paper yet, I did not put it in my divorce, so my ex-husband does not own it. But
Good.
It's called Your Fool, and I used to sing it live, and then I haven't had it actually recorded yet, but a lot of people listen to it and tell me that I should. It is about a teenage crush. I had a crush on this guy, but he was dating my best friend, or she wasn't my best friend, but she became my best friend. I thought she was toying with me at first when she wanted to be my friend, knowing that I liked her boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, she wasn't. We became really good friends. And then one day she just told me that her and he had decided that they were just going to be just friends and that he wanted to date me. And would I date him? And I'm like, are you seriously asking me if I would date your ex-boyfriend? You know, so I guess
that's interesting.
I guess we kind of dated, but I wasn't. I had a very chaperoned life, so we didn't really go out on dates, but people considered us an item. And then when summer came, we were separated, and he started hanging out with my other best friend. And they started getting to know each other. And when I came back to school, I was so excited to see him. And he told me that he wasn't my boyfriend anymore, that he was now my best friend's boyfriend. I was like, boy,
Oh, wow.
you're really moving along. And at first I was really upset at him. I was really mad at him because there's a lot of kindred spirit between he and I. Like, we had a lot in common, even though we were two very different people.
Yeah.
He shaved the bottom of his head and wore combat boots, and I wouldn't say preppy, but I was one of those kids that got along with every group in school, but I wasn't cliquish or snobby. And so, you know, I dressed normal. I would say I wouldn't dress like a headbanger. But we both wrote, and that was the thing I think really drew us together. And so I had every class with him, and I hated watching him smooch. In at least 3 of the classes he was just sharing saliva with my best friend, you know, and I just said, enough is enough. I went down to the counselor and I said, put me in a different schedule. And
Oh, wow.
the counselor said, okay, I will. And 2 weeks later, I got a different schedule. I went to my first new scheduled class, and there he was. And I'm like, what in the world happened here? This is backfired like nobody's business. So I went back down to the counselor, and I'm like, why in the world did I get the same schedule? He changed his schedule too? And he says, yeah, he told me that some ex-girlfriend of his was just really sad, and he didn't want to make her sad anymore, so he wanted to, you know, be out of sight. And so he changed his schedule, and I said, well, change my schedule back then. And they said, nope, we're not changing any more schedules for the rest of the year. So I was stuck in the schedule with this guy. I had almost every class with him, and at first I wouldn't even talk to him or look at him, but we just became the best of friends. And you know, after high school, he ended up marrying used to be my best friend. She and I never stayed friends after that, but he and I became good friends. And even to this day, he's got a wife and a bunch of kids. And I ended up, you know, getting married and having kids, and we're still the best of friends. You know, I can still call them up, it's like, you know, a year or 2 years have passed, but then when you talk to them, it's like no time has passed at all. It's just picked up right.
That's always
where,
nice.
Yeah,
That's always cool. That's always a cool
it's like
feeling.
it's like a brother feeling. It's almost like, you know, I could tell him anything, and I know it's confidential. You know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I don't have any friends like that now, but I'm sure if I saw some of my old friends, I'm sure it would kind of be like that.
Yeah.
Even though I won't.
Right. Yeah. I saw a post on Facebook about that. Like, how can you stay friends when you don't even communicate? And then I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? When you are friends, the communication's already there, you know. And then, you know, you can be gone for a long period of time, and when you come back, you're still friends, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's true.
That's true friends.
That
you
is
know?
true.
So.
All right. Well, very interesting. You have a lot of stories, and I could sit here and listen to you all day. But we are streaming this live. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, share the event. If you're watching on Facebook, share the event, give us a like. If you're watching on Twitter, give us hearts. So let's get to it. Let's get you in the booth, and let's get you playing.
All right.
All right.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you, guys.
And our darkness reigns, stars shine.